What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy, the one, the only Rogue King. You know it, self-appointed, self-anointed. All right, so today's video, we are doing a deck profile, but also we're going to do an explanation of how to build a blind second deck. So while this is a deck profile, and it will help you in that regard if you're trying to build a pure K9 deck, in particular what I want you to understand is how to actually build a functional blind second deck, because everything you know about blind second is completely incorrect. The reason why you don't see people playing blind second a lot is because they have the wrong mindset about it, an outdated mindset and an outdated way to play it. And as a result, they think that it's bad because that way is bad. But if you know how to change your mindset and actually learn how to play a blind second deck, you'll find it that it's actually incredibly better than any other version of the deck. So let's go ahead and go. I'm going to have the cameraman pivot down here. I'm going to show you the deck profile and the explanations here. So this is a essentially pure K9. It's technically a K9 Ryzeal, but the Ryzeal engine just functions as more things to do. So in reality, this actually functions as a blind second pure K9. So of course we do have the 3 Norroys, which, believe it or not, this is actually not as important as you think it would be. You could get away with 1 or 2 or even no Norroys. You can actually build this deck just fine without the Norroys. And the reason why is because while its ability to special summon from the deck is helpful, you'll find that the more you play the game, that effect itself is either interrupted a lot or unable to get to because your opponent doesn't have 2 cards in their hand, so you can't normal summon, right? So, and the ability to look at your opponent's hand is actually rather irrelevant. I have almost never actually done it. It's actually almost never come up. So we have that. We have 3 Izunas. This you must play 3 of. There is no substitute for these. You have to play 3. You do indeed play 3 Jokels, of course. There's also no replacement for that. So these 6 you must play. There's no replacements for them. I also play 2 K9 Lantern. The reason why you play 2 is because you will find out as you play the deck that the second one comes up quite often. Very much, very, very often. So 2 is great. Then I'm only playing 1 Lupus. I've seen a lot of players try to play more than 1 Lupus. However, it's actually not needed because the only function, the only real purpose of Lupus is that your opponent thinks it's important, and so you have to let them try to stop this card and get rid of it. And you're happy about that because this is actually not an important card to you. You let them get rid of it because they think it's important, but in reality, you just don't care. You'll produce the same board with or without this card. That's the secret about Lupus, that the real power is that everybody thinks it's good. And in reality, it's actually not that good. It's irrelevant. Like, if you take this card out, what happens to this deck? Literally nothing. The deck is still the same. Let's pretend this is the only card that get banned on the ban list. Notice how the deck is still the same, if not better. You can actually get away with 0 Lupus and be just fine. Then that's it for the monster lineup for the K9 side. We're going to move on to the Ryzeal cards, and this is the part I want you to pay attention to in particular here. For the Ryzeals, we are only playing 2 Ice Ryzeal, 2 Soar, and 1 X. This is what makes it a blind second thing, because you'll notice that I'm not playing things like Cross, I'm not playing things like Node, or the other one, Star Ryzeal. And the reason why is because while those cards may indeed be good for going first, they are A, additional bricks, and B, this is blind second. And in a blind second deck, cards like that don't actually help you out, right? Like, because think about this, right? If you're building your board, you're not actually building your board if you're going blind second. You're breaking your opponent's board. And so therefore, cards like Cross are not actually helpful enough. Those are cards for building your board. You don't care about building your board. You care about breaking your opponent's board and getting that OTK in. So cards like Star Ryzeal are not needed because they don't help you get that OTK in. Things like Node, same thing. They're not a starter. You want to play as many 1-card starters as you possibly can. So this functions as just to get to Detonator, and that's it, right? So there's that. We'll go ahead and move on to the rest of this. So for the searches, We're playing 3 Ks for K9. I've tested out other amounts of them. I've tested 1, I've tested 2, and I do think 3 is the best. You can get away with less, but you really want to have as many good starters as you can. So play 3. And for that same reason, you play 3 chaotic elements, because since you're a blind second deck, and you have so many ways to get aquas and pyros into the graveyard, this is not only a searcher, it's also a board breaker, and it's fantastic in that regard. But also, more importantly, the games you will lose are the games you don't have access to either Jokul or Noroi. So you need to always make sure you have as much access to them as possible. And so for that reason, I'm also playing 2 7th Tachyon. You may be wondering why I'm not playing 3, or why am I not playing Ascension as well, right? Because technically I can max out. I can do 3 Tachyons and 3 Ascensions, right? I mean, I have the cards. Why am I not doing that? The reason is because these are technically not 1-card starters. They cost you a card. Sure, ideally, in ideal situations, what you're going to do is you're going to activate a card. I mean, you're going to put a card to the top of the deck that you're going to search for later anyways. But then that just wasted a search. And you don't want to see more than 1 7th Tachyon. You want to get to 1, sure, but you don't want to see more than 1. And you also don't want to see too many ways to search the same things, right? Like, this is obviously going to be searching my Jokuls, but more often than not, so is this, and so is this, right? Like, and same thing with everything else on my deck. You know, more often than not, I already have my ways to get to Jokul. So you don't need too many ways to Jokul, but you do need enough ways to get to Jokul. All right, so there's that part. And then the last card that we're going to talk about here for that part, we do have 1 K9 Force released. Now, you may recall earlier I was talking about how cards like Cross are not good enough. That's true, and you would think that this kind of counts as like something like a Cross. But in reality, it functions as a searchable board breaker, because not only does it, so basically what you're going to end up doing is you're going to summon Jax. That's going to pop one of your opponent's monsters. Then you're going to go Force Released to pop another thing that they have, and that thing that you're summoning is going to be the Werewolf, which is like also another interruption there. So essentially what it ends up being is this functions as 3 interruptions right off the bat like that. So that's why this card is useful, and that's why I play that. Like, normally this is the kind of card that you would not play in a blind second deck, but this is barely the kind of thing that you actually do want to have. So cards like Cross and Star and Node, those don't do enough, because they themselves don't result in any kind of interruption, whereas this does. Then we are playing for this is the important part that makes it a blind second deck. We actually main deck all 9 Mulch armies. This is what has changed the game. This is the reason why everybody's mindset is now outdated. Blind second previously was forced you to play shit tons of hand traps, shit tons of board breakers like Regeki, Lightning Storm, yada yada yada. While those cards are not bad, they're all, every last one of them, completely outdated. Instead, what blind second actually is every maxi in the game possible plus hand traps, and then as many 1-card starters as you can fit into the deck. So ideally what you want to have is 20 1-card starters and 20 non-engine, and 9 of those non-engine being the Mulch armies, and the rest being hand traps. In this deck in particular, I changed things out a bit because most of the 1-card starters in this deck are very situational 1-card starters. Like Noroi is only a 1-card starter if my opponent has 2 cards in their hand, right? Or if I have a way to tribute summon it, right? Izuna is only a 1-card starter again if I can normal summon it, right? So as a result, you need to play more than normal. But normally what you would do is, I know a lot of people think that you only need 15 to 17 1-card starters, but this is actually incorrect, because I know that people think they're like, oh wait, the math is the maths, right? Like if you have 15 to 17 1-card starters, that's the ratios. The chances of you seeing one of them in your opening hand is barely less than if you had 20 1-card starters, and so therefore they think that the return on investment is not worth it. But it's not about the odds of you seeing one 1-card starter in your opening hand. It's about the odds of you seeing 2 of them. Because in this day and age, your first action, whatever that first 1-card starter is, it's almost always going to get blocked. Almost always. So you need to have a minimum of 2 1-card starters. Whether it's a blind second deck or not, it's irrelevant. You still need to have a good 20 1-card starters, not the 15 to 17 that everybody thinks about. You'll notice that in this day and age, when you look at basically any profile, the number of 1-card starters keeps going higher and higher and higher, and the number of non-engine goes down lower and lower and lower. 6 months ago, everybody was playing decks that had 21 card starters and 20 non-engine. Now what we're seeing is a lot higher on the starter count and only like 13 non-engine. And the reason is because in this day and age of Yu-Gi-Oh, there is nothing in the game, outside of the Molchamis, there's nothing in the game that is better than another starter, right? Think about it that way. If you have 4 1-card starters and a Molchami in your hand, whether you're going first or second, irrelevant, you're probably going to win. Those 1-card starters are going to break through basically anything your opponent puts up, and you're probably going to win. So that's what these Molchamis do, is they enable you to see 4 1-card starters instead of just 1, right? And that's why I'm playing so many 1-card starters, is because my intention is Molchami them to death so that they either end on nothing, in which case the rest of my hand is good enough, or they do whatever they can to build something and give me at least a couple of draws. But those couple of draws, what are they going to draw me into? More 1-card starters, which therefore enable me to break their boards more. That's the best thing about the blind second deck. And now another great thing about the blind second deck is there's lots of cards that you no longer have to worry about, right? Like, you no longer have to worry about getting Molchami because you're blind second, right? They are always going to have something on board, so therefore you're not going to get Molchami, right? You don't have to worry about Droll because if they were going on your turn, because if they had Droll, they would have Drolled you on the Molchamis, right? You don't have to worry about Ash Blossom because, again, if they were going to Ash Blossom you, they would have Ash Blossomed you on the Molchamis, right? So a lot of things that you normally have to build your deck around for, if you're not a blind second deck, now you don't have to worry about those anymore, right? So for that reason, the hand trap ratio actually changes. So now Imperm is the most important 1-for-1 trading non-engine. Like, it's not a unlike these ones. These ones are high impact. So out of all the low impact hand traps, this one's now the best of them because it functions as not only as a hand trap but also as a board breaker whenever you need it to be. And so I do play 3 because you want to, you only need to see 1 or 2 hand traps after you've Molchami. You only need to see 1 or 2 because you just need them to end on a weak enough board for you to overcome it. So this one will get you there more often than not. So you play the 3 of that, and then because you're no longer afraid of being whatever engine they put up, and you're also no longer afraid of Molchamis, you now only need to play 2 Ash Blossom, not 3. You would think you need to play 3, but try playing it and you'll see the Ash Blossom isn't actually as useful as you think it would be. In this day and age, 2 is fine. And then the last 2 that I play is 2 Nibiru's. These are more high impact cards. What will happen is you'll Molchami them and draw into a Nibiru, and you'll nib them, and either they'll be forced to end on that broken board, or they'll be forced to play past the Nibiru, in which case you Molchami even more, right? You draw even more cards from that. So I would say either they have to continue going, in which case you're going to draw from those Molchamis that you already used up, or they're going to stop, in which case they have a broken board and you can easily pass by that. So that's the function of that. Okay. So then we're going to go ahead and do the, so that's the main deck. In this case, it's 42 cards. Because we're playing 9 Molchamis, you do want to keep it as close to 40 as you can. I would say the maximum you want to do is 43. I did 42, and I'm fine with that. And I normally stick to 41 or 42 because what you're going to see when you play a deck like this is that the side deck also completely changes as a blind second player because you no longer need to have a certain amount of siding for going first and a certain amount for going second. You just simply go blind second, and therefore you have a lot more room for what to add to your side deck, which also means you need to make sure that your main deck has a little bit of space for siding out cards. And you generally don't want to side out engine. You would rather side out anything but engine. So therefore I put it to 42 cards, so I have a little bit more room to side out cards, right? I want to go through the extra deck. Again, because it's a blind second deck, you're only going to need the one Ripper. You're not going to need the second because you don't need the follow-up Ripper because there is not going to be a follow-up. You're going to let them go first, you're going to break their board, and you're going to OTK. And so you're never going to need the second Ripper, almost never. And if you do need it, oh well. You know, like you have plenty of other things you can do instead. We play 1 Jax and 1 Werewolf. This is all you're going to need as a blind second player because all you're trying to do is break their board and OTK right then and there. The game is going to end one way or another on your first turn, which is to say the second turn of the game. One way or another, it's going to end right then and there. Like either you will win because you've OTK'd them, or you will not have been able to push far enough, in which case they'll probably make a comeback and they'll win, which is fine. You just need to get used to that kind of mindset so that way you increase the amount of wins as much as possible. And because this is a blind second deck, you're actually playing double Nash Knight package. Not just the Nash Knight package is so freaking good, you're actually playing it 2 of them because you are trying to break their board as consistently as possible. So one thing that I will do is on turn 0, I will Nash Knight via Izuna, right? And take something of theirs, and then on the start of my turn, I now already have the ability to take another thing. So my first action, I'm just going to detach and take something out from theirs again, right? So just like that, I've done just from one thing, I've already taken 2 monsters from them, right? And then another thing that I love about this is that like this will have the two materials on already, which is which I'll show you in a second. So I'll detach and they'll have no choice but to interrupt it, right? To like imperm or whatever, right? I'm like, okay, sure. Then I just go immediately on top of that, Nash Knight, because Nash Knight doesn't care if Nash Knight got impermed or not. Doesn't care. I'll just go ahead, boop, and then I'll just go activate effect. And what do you know? What do I go for when I do that? Check it out. I have not only the Silent Honor on a package, but I also have the Masquerade package. So depending on what happens on how they interact with my Nash Knight, I'll go for one or the other, right? And I'm telling you, the way this deck is designed, you will always see 8 or 9 cards of your extra deck being used on your one turn, right? You have 15 cards in your extra deck, you'll use up at least 8 or 9 of them on your one turn, just like that, and you'll win. You'll win right then and there. That's the way this deck's designed. It's not designed to have a long game, because if you're having a long game, then it doesn't matter if you're going first or second. The whole function of a blind second deck is to take advantage of going second. And if you can't take advantage of that, then there's no point in doing a blind second deck. And then the last cards that I'm playing, we have the 1 7th Tachyon Searcher, which, by the way, don't forget, if you look at Masquerade, this is a 7th Tachyon target for the Ryzeals as well. It usually doesn't come up. Usually you don't need it, but it's at least there. So you have one more target, which here. So technically speaking, your targets for Nash Knight is this. I mean, not for Nash Knight, for Tachyon. You have this. You have these. Actually, you don't have this one. This one doesn't come up. Sorry. Yeah, and you have this. This is all you need. This gets you into everything you need, right? So there's that one, and then for the rest of the extra deck here, the only rank 4 that I genuinely play is Detonator. The rest of the rank 4s I play. I technically can make Silent Honor Arc and like actually make it with my Ryzeal engine, and sometimes that comes up, but generally the only reason I have it is for Detonator. Everything else, that's really the only one you need. This is really the only one you need, because the function of this is that it forces your opponent to interact with this instead. Like, you don't care if they actually break this. Let them break it, because that's the whole point. It's like, if they're breaking this, they're not breaking the things you actually care about, right? And then the last cards, I do play the twins. 1 Typhon and 1 Zeus. These actually don't come up as often as you would think. If you play this as a blind second deck and stuff, the Typhon is actually much less needed than you think it would be, and I almost never actually summon it. Same thing with the Zeus, I almost never actually summon it, because this is only good after your battle phase. Well, I don't intend to actually have an after my battle phase, right? I intend to actually freaking win right then and there, right? So if I'm actually playing past the battle phase, that means I did not do good enough. So this is just kind of like saving protection if I didn't do good enough, and hope that it's enough. But usually the game ends before that, right? So that's the extra deck. Now I'm gonna go ahead and go through the side deck here. The great thing about blind second is that you have a lot more room in your side deck now. It's still just 15 cards, but now things that you normally would think, like, instead of playing cards I play this for this matchup, I play this for that matchup, I play this for going first, I play this for going second. Now you're like, okay, I know I'm going blind second, so what are the best cards I can do that are generic and good against basically no matter what my matchup is? I'm going to go ahead and blind second to this, right? And just put those in and just it's good against every matchup in the game, right? So that's what this entire extra deck is. So firstly, we're starting out with two Lancia, because it is Malice H, but it's also good against a lot of other generic decks. So we play it in there. We play two Match These Fiend, which I admit this card needs to be banned, but as long as it's not banned, we're going to play it. Two Ashatos is same thing, right? Like as long as this card actually exists in the game, I'm going to play it. But this should have been banned as well. Two Kaijus. It doesn't matter which Kaijus you play. These are just the two that I have. The other ones that I have are like two high power attack. So this is the only two that I have that are under 3,000, and that's really all that matters. It just needs to be under 3,000, and nothing else matters about those. Just Kaiju, because normally if you're going blind second, and you Molchami them, they're going to end on their board with only one or maybe two good things on their board. So you Kaiju one of them away, and the rest of the board you can just break easily enough, right? Then we are playing two Salesman. This is fantastic for blind second. You would think this is a going first card, and it is because you can call things like Droll. But it's actually blind second because you let your opponent build their board, and then whatever they have, you can just go activate Salesman, call out whatever they have, and boom, now they're dead. So that's what makes this card so good here. And then I'm also playing two Fenrirs. Just good generic things to break boards and stuff, and that's what you're looking for. Just like good generic stuff, right? Like think about this. Like look at this this side deck here so far. Basically, all of it can be put into basically any deck, for the exception of these ones. Okay, we could say these don't. But basically, all of this can be played in almost any against almost any deck, and it's also highly effective against almost every deck out there, right? So that's the point there, right? And then finally, the last two cards, I do play one Harpy's Feather Duster, good generic stuff, and then the last card is one Valon. And you may be wondering, why in the hell is this in the side deck? A, because I couldn't find room in the extra deck, but B, more importantly, the actual cards that I'm generally signing out for game 2 and 3, normally the only cards I'm signing out is just going to be my Ryzeal engine, because the actual the correct number of cards to side out on any given matchup is 5 to 7 cards. Well, here's 5. So I side out these 5. Well, now the detonator is useless. So I side out the detonator and put in the Valon, right? That's another reason why I play so many searchers, because minus those 5. Look at this here, right? 3, 6, 9, 11, 14, 17, 19. This is 19 one-card starters, not including the Ryzeal engine. So when I side out the Ryzeal engine, I still have 19 one-card starters, which is still more than what everybody else is playing. That's why that's like that. And again, remember, these are not always going to be one-card starters. That's why you have to play so many, because ideally they're one-card starters, but quite often, a good, I'd say 30% of the times, these ones are not one-card starters, right? So you have to be aware of that. Like all 9 of these are not always going to be one-card starters. So you just got to have as many ways to get to this to make it so that way as possible. So that's it for the deck profile itself. Let me know what you all think about that. Comment and subscribe and do all that good stuff here. If you want to see more, let me know. If you have any other questions about it, please also let me know on that as well. Happy to discuss everything about this deck. I love this deck. Let's see, what else to talk about it? So the same principles of this apply to everything. What you're going to look for when you're looking to build a blind second deck is you want to have a deck that has as many one-card starters as possible, for one, but also you want to the one-card starters need to get to your power things as quickly as possible. Like, for example, it's the difference between Raid Raptors and Ryzeals, right? Like Ryzeals, your Sword Ryzeal immediately gets you to your detonator, right? It special summons itself for free, it does the search, you summon that monster, boom, there's your detonator, right? Raid Raptors doesn't do that, right? It doesn't matter, whatever, it takes like 30 summons to get to anything important, right? and therefore it's way too easy to interrupt, and therefore it's not good for blind seconds, right? And that's the advantage you have, because most people right now, since they're not playing a blind second deck, they are playing in decks that take a little while to get to their plays, right? Like think about, for example, Yummy, right? Yummy is an example in both directions. Like the way people are currently playing it, it takes a little while to get to anything important, and therefore it's somewhat easy to interrupt. But also, if you play it correctly, you can immediately get to your interruptions, and therefore it can also make a very good blind second deck. And that's why Draco Tail is also very good. It's not because it's the most powerful deck in the room, it's because it gets to its board in under 5 summons. So next format, it's actually going to be not as good as people think it is, because now as of this moment, right, Draco Tail is not really weak to any kind of hand traps, right? It doesn't care about Molcharmy, it doesn't really care about Drolls, all those things. But coming up next format, guess what it's weak to? Literally all of it, right? So therefore, I actually believe the current way of playing Draco Tail is actually the superior way. Maybe you could add a little bit more here and there of the new stuff, but realistically, if you're going to play Draco Tail, you should be playing it closer to what it is now than what people think it's going to be later. Because then the more you play the new stuff, the more you are weak to every hand trap in the game, and therefore the deck is already fair, right? Okay, sure, now you're going to have plenty of ways to get to those fair cards, but the cards are still fair, right? So like now you're opening yourself up to every hand trap in the game, but only playing a fair deck. And that's the same thing with K9. Basically any blind second deck as well. The problem you're facing is that you're playing fair, right? Like that's why I love playing blind second, is because you are guaranteeing to your opponent that you are playing fair, because you're not going to be playing any kind of floodgate, right? Like you're not going to floodgate them because you're blind second. So how can you floodgate? You can't like flip Tikaboo, right? You're blind second, right? So it's automatically a fair deck, and I love that. I love that, and I think it's much more of a challenge. And the more you change your mindset towards that, the better of a player you'll become, and the more you'll throw people off their game, and the higher the win rate will become. I went from winning, or like topping, I should say, 1 in every like 10 tournaments before I was going blind seconds, and now I would say I top basically every last tournament I play in. I would say close to minimum 8 out of every 10 tournaments I play in, I top them, if not win them outright. Specifically because I'm blind second, and it just throws everybody off. I'm a skilled player just like everybody else is, but because I'm blind second and my mindset is going towards that, it really fucks with your opponent. Excuse my language. It really messes with your opponent, and they're not prepared for it. And even if they already know you're a blind second player, because once you get that reputation of it, they know it, they're still not in that mindset, so it still tricks them. And you'll see, you could even take it to regionals or whatever you want to do, and once you've mastered it, your win rate percentage will go above 80%, just because you are as good as your opponent is, but you have the edge on them by playing the game in a way that they're not expecting and not understanding. So yeah, that's everything I wanted to talk about there. If you guys have anything more, let me know. Talk to you later, guys. Peace out.